What's also not selling me on beating Trump is the new Green Deal, which all of the 2020 contenders have endorsed. It would cost $93 trillion, or to every person in this room, $600,000 per each of your households. Do you think that plan, thank you, ma'am, is practical, or have you endorsed it, or do you have another option? Because when I hear that an average American is going to have to spend $600,000 for a new Green Deal, you can understand how people like me don't think that's logical.
Well, this is a lot like the death panels you heard about in Obamacare. Republicans talked about death panels. We didn't have death panels, and we don't have $600,000 costs. This is a thing that I think has been helpful in our discussion in a variety of ways. Number one, we're talking about climate change. That is of value.
But
we're also talking about high ambition.
Could you give an example to just the average person in here, how they can help, where it doesn't sound so irrational? I mean, we're talking about $51 trillion, the elimination of planes, the elimination of cows, a railway, no planes. I guess nobody can go to Hawaii anymore. It doesn't sound that rational to me.
It isn't rational because those are the things that Donald Trump said. We are not going to eliminate cars. We are not going to eliminate trains. We're going to have what I have in my driveway today, which is a blue GM Bolt made in Michigan with American workers. That's what we're going to have, okay?
A lot of environmentalists don't walk the walk, they just talk the talk, and then they want the average American to spend $600,000 in their household, and none of this adds up.
They just said that wasn't really true.
But,
no.
That's what's proposed on the new Green Deal.
Actually, that is not what is proposed. Let's get this straight. That is not proposed in the new Green Deal, okay?
And now we have Meghan McCain carrying water on national television for Republicans purposefully spreading misinformation about the Green New Deal. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like doing just a few minutes of research before you start perpetuating the idea that Democrats are introducing a bill to eliminate cows to a national audience might be well served. So because McCain wouldn't, here's the truth about what this legislation includes. The $93 trillion price tag comes from a Republican-aligned think tank called American Action Forum, which claimed that the cost could fall between $51 trillion and $93 trillion. Senator Ed Markey called the analysis lazy and rails against it, including policies that aren't even included in the resolution. The United Nations, which is not funded by climate change deniers, released their own report last year outlining how climate change could cost more than $500 billion annually in lost economic output in the US by 2100. The last time we took Republican estimates to be fact, we were told that the GOP tax cuts would pay for themselves, send the stock market soaring, and cut down the deficits by $1 trillion. Instead, the federal budget deficit increased 17% in 2018 to $779 billion, expected soon to hit $1 trillion, and the stock market had its worst year since the financial crisis in 2008. Really hoping Republicans can do my lotto numbers next. As for the elimination of planes and cows, even if the Green New Deal called for that, it's non-binding and unenforceable. It's just a blueprint for Democratic legislation down the road. So you wouldn't have to turn in your car to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or send your cow to the slaughter. But of course, it doesn't call for that. It calls for overhauling the transportation systems in the United States to eliminate pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector as much as is technologically feasible. And it mentions investing in zero-emission vehicles, clean public transportation, and high-speed rail. That's it. Which is weird because I could have sworn that banning flights on Delta was in here somewhere. As for eliminating cows, the resolution calls for working collaboratively with farmers and ranchers to eliminate pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from the agricultural sector as much as is technologically feasible. Nothing about cows. The elimination of planes and cows nonsense actually came from a draft version of the FAQs, which stated, "We set a goal to get net zero rather than zero emissions in 10 years because we aren't sure that we'll be able to fully get rid of farting cows and airplanes that fast." In other words, in context, the bill explicitly argues against getting rid of those things. That as a practical matter, we should aim for net zero rather than zero, since some things, like the elimination of cows and airplanes, just aren't possible. In other words, any mention of those things is just a bad faith argument, and that language was never even in the final resolution. But because Republicans can't win on policy, they focus on misleading the public instead. And because Meghan McCain is too lazy to simply Google the facts, she's feeding right into the extremist propaganda machine that she pretends to stand against.